But I think the most notable one was Atto themselves,
Hmm.
who showed the price of a Quest Pro, which is like 1,500 yen. In the comparison, I think it was also close to $1,000, which I shared the comparison.
Hmm.
And they agreed. We both agreed.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion. No Raptor today. Raptor has a few things he's got to take care of right now. And who are you, may I ask?
I'm Jazz Miracle. I'm a small VRchat photographer. And oh fuck.
Oh,
Why?
try pulling up your menu and then blipping it behind you because you can grab and move it. And then you won't go anywhere.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, well,
Sorry about that. Am I alright to swear? Or
go right the fuck ahead. I have zero problem.
okay. I'm so sorry. I wasn't
Oh,
too sure.
don't. It's perfectly fine. I know YouTube may not like it because algorithmic whatevers, but I generally don't care. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a great pleasure to get to speak with you. How did you get into VRchat photography and VRchat?
Let's see, like I started VRchat around like during the pandemic, like how most people perhaps started in 2019. But I was just a desktop player. I was playing on like a standard laptop, no specs, like unsure of anything, and I was just trying to see what honestly worked because a lot of people do use like Messenger, and I don't because that involves family who don't know what I am interested in.
Hmm.
I have to say that it was a very eye-opening experience. But I was only getting half of it because I was only sitting in front of a computer at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and let's see. For photography, it started after I got my headset in 2020. It was a standard Quest 1. Shoot. Menu. There we go.
Hmm.
Yeah, Quest 1. Someone was moving and they wanted to sell it, and they offered me $200. It
Hmm.
was fresh out of the box. They had like I think they had 2. So, like, they had 1, and they had another that was just sitting in the middle of, like, in their room with no purpose, just collecting dust. So they figured it would be a good idea for them to sell it to just make some money.
Hmm.
But at the time, during those, I was pretty much hit with a very big depression spike
Hmm.
of how?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh,
The depression spike, the best way to describe it and how that started as well.
that's.
How can my sister work like this?
I have no idea.
Um, yeah, I had to ask her later. So, yeah, the depression spike. It was when I was still on desktop and I was among like some friend groups of part of a giant, and I cannot say it was a giant, it was a small gaming fandom for a
Hmm.
specific game. I won't say what it is, but for those who eventually watch this, I feel like they would know the story as well.
Hmm.
Um, I was among friend groups who did not get along, and drama just trickled out of VRchat and just out into like social media, specifically Twitter.
Hmm.
I was like in an acting group, and that fell short when the drama reached us. I had to quit only like 3 or 4 months into it because I couldn't deal with the pressure.
Hmm.
And at the time, I just stopped VRchat entirely, mostly because it I just no longer felt safe. And God, Damn it. I'm just sorry that there's
Oh,
gonna be like a lot of editing out of
oh,
this.
oh. To be honest, it's no big deal. With editing, we try not to do the editing on our videos because we want people to see the conversations as they happened for authenticity. Because I personally, the way I see it is every
Hmm.
and pause is just a brief look into the person's personality. So I don't like doing heavy edits and making things look better than they are. I'd rather people see the people as they are because it's kind of the point of VRchat. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Which eventually I hope to get into.
Hmm.
Let's see. But yeah, I stopped VR chat for a while because I feared people just gonna know me for some terrible stuff I did.
Hmm.
I cannot say I was gaslit, but I was taken advantage and manipulated for the kind person I was.
Hmm.
And for a while, I generally believed, I generally believed that I was a terrible person because I believed in a person at the time that was terrible. It
Hmm.
was, yeah, it was hard. It did take a while for me to break out of it. I did get back together with some people, others. I cannot say I stand with who they are as where they are
Hmm.
because there are some things I've learned which I will not say, nor will I specify.
Okay. Understandable. You don't have to share anything you don't wish
Hmm.
to.
Yeah. But at the time, yeah, it was so hard for me to trust people. And
Hmm.
in turn I lost trust of in in myself.
Hmm.
As I generally believed I'm not worth anyone's time. I
Hmm.
contemplated, taking the worst path that people can quick
Hmm.
to figure out what that is.
Hmm.
Few times. Because I believed it would be better.
Oh, you are definitely worth being here on this planet. There's some mutual
Mhm.
friends of ours who's was very excited to hear that you and I talked. So there are people out there who enjoy your
Really?
presence. Yes, of course. There are people out
No
there on
way.
this earth who do enjoy seeing you around, and that's like that with everybody. At the time, you may not see it. A lot of the time, you may feel alone. You may feel like it's just you, but in reality, there are people who enjoy everyone's presence around you. So thank you for still being here, Jazz.
Thank you. And it did take a while for me to realize that I did belong. It it took a long time.
Hmm.
I still doubt myself. I still look back
Hmm.
of what happened years ago and wondered if anything could have been different, or if there was something I could have changed, or someone else could have changed.
Hmm.
But I say this from like one of my favorite indie developers, Con Gao of Freebird Games.
Hmm.
Sometimes there are days where we have something. Sometimes there are days where we have nothing. But oh,
Another another tip
but
to prevent
mm,
drifting: if you bring up the radial menus in your
yeah,
hands, instead of moving, they'll just
yeah,
move around the radial menus. If that may help, it's another idea.
okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. That's it. Yes, Con Gao is it. Sometimes there are days we have something. Sometimes there are days we have nothing. But to be a part of this world, to witness both its beauty and tragedy, that is a blessing in life, worthwhile in and of itself.
Hmm.
And I carry that because, like, his stories, even though they're not VR chat, it's like indie games like titles of To the Moon and Finding Paradise.
Hmm.
If people heard of those titles these days, it allows you to reflect back and find the source of reality you're looking for. And
Mm,
sometimes we all have to step back and realize there's life outside of what we have out in here. Yes, I've seen people like I've heard people they wish they can give up their lives in reality just to exist in this world where anything is there in the palm of their hands.
mm,
But when you take reality away and just stick with something that isn't real, then what are you truly experiencing? Because all of life's beauty is out there, and no matter how ugly it is, especially with what's going on in the world right now,
mm,
just being there and hopefully one day see the conclusion. I think that it's just beautiful,
mm,
and I hope people get to see that one day.
mm. I very much agree. And something I've learned in my life that may or may not help you. What you did in the past created you today. What you do today creates the you tomorrow. So with that said, what has happened is done. What you can change and do is what you do today. So you still have plenty of a future to create whatever a version of you or whatever you wish to be part of. There's still plenty of opportunity in the world. There is time.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I do find that it's true. There's always time to make a change, even if you don't see it. Like you said, you don't see it right now,
Mm,
but there's always a moment in time where something can make a difference.
mm, indeed. So, how did you get into VR chat photography?
That's right about that. So yeah, again, it was when I got the headset. I whenever I do photography, I there's always the concept that people tell you a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Mm,
But when you apply that to something that isn't real, such as like worlds like to example, Yotsumi frames Project Summer Flare and at
mm,
those World Series or Shophouse Lucid Dream Journal worlds.
mm,
It's you can create something out of it. But it's not just photography that can create 1,000 words. And I think VR chat is a perfect canvas to just create something that is not defined by the real world's logic or reason. You can
mm,
create absolute masterpieces
mm,
and tell a story with that. And I think that's what drove me to do photography. Because what if I could take their stories and create something that I want to create too,
mm,
but they're just the base plate for said stories.
mm. Wow. That's
Mhm.
I do very much agree with you. There is a whole lot in VR chat that makes a lot possible. And in this last year, I've experienced quite a few worlds for the first time that have blown my mind away. There's one I experienced recently. I'll have to go find it. It was a really interesting one.
Really?
It was Alien Invasion, I think it was. I'll have to go.
Alien Invade I don't
Alien
think I've heard
Arrival.
of that one.
Alien Arrival. And
Alien Arrival?
yeah, it's a world where you kind of spawn in a field and then a ship comes down and talks to you. And then from there, you
Mhm.
experience a whole lot from like the end of a world, a space journey, and then a bit of a twist ending I don't want to ruin. And then that's the world. It's just a
Fair.
visual experience you go through. And I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was a really fun world, and there are many worlds out there like that. I do agree with you entirely on your point.
I do agree. I recently I recently went onto, like, a VRchat world excursion with the group Noid Vexus,
Ah, yes.
which I absolutely like. And plus I have seen you over there a
Mm,
few times as well.
mm. Yeah. Nova's an
And, like,
amazing
we
person.
recently went
Mm,
He is, yeah, I admire him a lot. He's great. And yeah, we went through, Epilogue Chapter 1 by Dr. Morrow,
mm,
and that was ironic because a friend introduced me to Organism made by the same person,
mm,
and, like, I was hoping to see epilogue in my own time, but to be with a group who perhaps never seen it before, just being able to see like the open conversation on like what the world could represent, it's really thrilling. And yes, like we did agree,
Hmm.
there is so much blank space that VRchat can offer to creators, not
Hmm.
just like through yes, like through worlds, through avatars, and through photography and many other stuff, even for dances as well.
Hmm.
That it gives you that open platform to do whatever you want. Within reason, of course.
Oh,
There are
of
some things,
course.
of course, that can't be allowed. Or
Yeah.
else VRchat would swing down the ban hammer or whatever they have.
Hmm. I agree. Yep. I'm glad there are people like Showpo, Dr. Morrow, and many more who use VRChat as a sandbox because there are lots of really cool things out there. And I'm glad I was actually quite surprised. Actually, was last year found out there was VRChat photographers, and I had no idea that was like that big of a thing here. I had no idea. Quite
Really?
honestly. No, I didn't.
I I followed the trend of photography just because of like the Japanese audience, which
Mm,
is why like for if people saw my Twitter, which I've linked to my bio, there's several posts that I have included like Japanese text and stuff, and it's because I want to see because the American audience does carry a different vibe towards the Japanese
mm,
community of VR chat,
mm,
and I admire both. But for me, it's like I want to see what more communities are out there
mm,
rather than like stay in the one portion that I'm in, which is like the west coast of America. I want
mm,
to see what more other people can create, not just like in the same clique that I'm in.
mm. Hmm. What have been some of your favorites that you've seen or experienced so far?
Like in terms of worlds or like, creators, which
Yes. Just yes.
yes, both. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know I brought up. Okay, so I know I did bring up what's his name Y2358's World
Mm,
Project Summer Flare.
mhm,
He is a Japanese creator that basically is like you start in this beautiful yet simplistic world where it's like there's an aquarium, there's a beach, there's a small town, and it's during the middle of summer,
mm,
and everything looks good. And then like you find some stuff, which this is a small spoiler. You realize it was just a stimulation. This entire town that you were put in is like in a post-apocalyptic scenario,
mm,
and it kind of tells like the story that can be applied to real life where moderation is good.
mm,
At the time of their creating, they and I remember this because I saw like an interview they had as well. They said when you think of summer, like actually when you think of summer, what was the first thing you think about?
mm.
Goes on for like the conversation of it.
Okay. Oh.
It's like, yeah, I'm asking you
Oh,
because like
yeah,
this also
sorry.
drives into yeah.
Oh, I guess I think of vacations, times with friends and family is what I think.
hmm I've asked other people, they're like, I think of water parks. I think of, yeah, like you said, fun time with friends and family. Some they say barbecues, others say going to the beach.
Mm,
All of those is good. All of those are good in moderation. And when you apply that to the VR chat space, you need to apply that moderation as well. And
mm,
remember, you need to take off the headset now and then and just return back to life.
mm,
You may have a job, you may have a family, you may have kids. Those need time too.
mm,
And so, like, while you could divert time to what you have on the computer, you need to remember to take time out of your day, just be real and just be in the real world.
mm. That is a very good point there that you and the world
Yeah.
makes. Moderation in a lot of things can be key to happiness. We were talking with another person before, Snitchy, who's a VR dancer, who said a similar thing. Moderation in VR is
Really?
a very good thing. And one of the things he mentioned was, as long as the way he sees it, because he works in social work in Europe, and
Ah,
one of
okay.
the things he said was, if you're able to keep up with your life, like you moderate your job, your family's taken
Mhm.
care of,
Yeah.
your bills are paid. He doesn't see much of a problem with the time you spend outside of that because you're at least taking care of the necessities. But to the same degree,
Mhm.
we all know that one person who takes VRChat a little too far. Like the person who sleeps,
Yeah.
eats, drinks, and hangs out in here. You can come at any time of the day, and there they are in VR.
Yeah.
And
I
I do,
agree. Yes.
mm, yeah, it is. It is. That is a point I've heard once before, and in topics of conversation does come back.
Yeah, I agree. I think another world I've had the experience of enjoying,
Mm,
and this is like during my first year. It was Sky Lanterns
mm,
by Otsuno, the creator of familiar VR chat games like Blackout and Prison Escape.
mm,
I think that one stuck out to me, even though it's been like 5 years since I've been in the VR chat space in general.
mm,
Just I sometimes like go back there and like I see like even though like it was a work that was like years ago, it still held a charm that it's like it allows me to just sit back and just like simply reflect or like de-stress because it takes me away from like so many places. Yes, it's a
mm,
call out to Disney's Tangled, but it's done in a way that makes you feel like you're actually there, and
mm,
it's just beautiful. It's simple, but it's done in a way that allows people to just like say like come and experience it for the first time, especially if you're in a headset.
mm. There's a saying I hear a lot, and it is
Mhm.
sometimes less is more, where you don't need a whole lot of
Yeah.
something to make it look good or act good. You can have all the flashy hoo-dahs and thingamabobs all you want, but sometimes just simplicity is not something to look away from either. Hmm.
I agree, yes. And I think I do have a third,
Hmm.
and it's not necessarily a world,
Hmm.
but an entire experience. And I
Hmm.
think it was sometime in last year in August, or was it? I think it's either August or September.
Hmm.
I was there for I I joined a my very first virtual reality show by Thea,
Hmm.
where they had their New Eden collaboration.
Oh.
And it was during yeah, it was absolutely thrilling. Again, like this was coming from like a virtual like a VR photographer standpoint where I knew nothing about either community. All I knew is that New Eden made incredible avatars, incredible worlds, incredible events. And for FIA's community, they do great events and collaborations. And I also knew Thea from, and this is a shout out to my favorite musician, Porter Robinson,
Hmm.
where she made his avatar during like the start of the pandemic when he
Hmm.
was active in VR chat. So like being able to see the person that one of my favorite creators in music was like affiliated with was
Hmm.
incredible.
Wow.
I've seen like the dancers of Eden, and they were astounding. I've listened to their stories and their interview after the shows, and it was incredible to hear their standpoint and their upcomings as well,
Hmm.
which I absolutely love.
Hmm. So what was the show like? Because I've never been to any of Fia's shows.
Oh yeah, no, well, it was my first time too. I'd say the first time because oh my god, if Thea is to hear this, I feel like I'm gonna be called out so badly. um, I remembered I went there wearing the publicly accessible Porter Robinson avatar that
Hmm.
can be found in the world is it Secret Sky Stadium?
Mhm.
And from the time that I was sitting there, I just remembered Fia herself was sitting like a row down diagonally right of me, and occasionally would look behind her towards my direction. So I was terrified. Like, is she looking at me? Is she looking at the people behind me? Is she looking up at the people in the mezzanine behind me? And so like I was terrified, thinking like, is she gonna call me out or something? But
Mm,
the shows itself was beautiful. Their dancers, it was imaginative for New Eden and their crew. Best way to describe it, it was mostly like eccentric storytelling. There
mm,
was one where like they used like a cloning mechanism on their avatar to stimulate two dancers.
mm,
And another they had like this giant puppet that just like mimicked every single one of their moves. And it was incredible. And a
mm,
third, she had fire physics where it would blast like fire towards the audience. And I actually felt the heat of the fire like brush against my head at the time.
mhm,
Like it was they captivate you. The New
mm,
Eden dancers captivate you, making you feel like you are part of the experience. Yes,
mm,
that's I feel like that's what they do. They want you to be like a part of their group and
mm,
just invite an open invitation to their stories that they want to bring onto the stage.
mm. Cool. What did you think about going to Fia's show as your first ever like VR chat live show?
I think it was very I was definitely an outside looking in because it was my first time, and perhaps these people they'd known each other longer than I've known any one of them.
Mm,
I only for me, it was great still, regardless, because I get to see a community, two communities merge together,
mm,
and just simply just like feel like one big happy family.
mm,
Because again, like this is a game that tied us all together. Just so happened these two groups, they just happened to like at some point say, let's do a thing together, and we're gonna make it great.
mm,
So but the show itself and as well as the interview, it got me a chance to see, like, how we are right now. See, like, the realness of each other
mm,
and learn about, like, what got them to start in their own work.
mm. Oh, yeah. Would you ever go again?
I probably would if my time allows and if my
Mm,
actual setup allows. Because my setup, I'm running on a laptop that can function semi-compatible VR
mm,
quality. Let's say like this is like the line. No, let's say this is the line for it to run functionally and properly.
mhm,
This is the line where it meets, just barely passing.
mm,
So there would be times I would lag, and therefore I would not be able to enjoy much of the experiences in real time because I
mm,
would perhaps be like 20, 30 seconds behind everyone else. But
mm,
if my stuff is good, I would definitely go again. And if for anyone that wants to check it out, please do so. You
mm,
get to see inside look into creators like myself or even you and
mm,
like get to know like what got us going.
mm. So, with your travels and taking photos, what have been some of your favorite photos and where were they taken?
I think most of my favorite photos, I know I mentioned the Japanese creator Atto who created they made is it I know they made is it the Origin, so like memory series where it's like it's each of these is like it's set in like a box-shaped world, but each of them has like a different tone. There was one that's like it's like you feel like you're underwater,
Mm.
and there's a giant tree. There's another that's like it's an entire city and it's red. And everything's like destroyed, and there's like a red ominous moon in front. There's a third that's like in a fantasy like castle or cathedral with a train that seems like it's passing by, and a fourth that's taken in the forest, and it's lush and green and inviting and warm.
Mm.
Those to me, like where there's no direction of a story. Like I said, pictures worth a thousand words. A world can be worth a thousand words.
Mm.
But again, it's like when there's no concrete story, then you have to create something. And again, like it is the base play towards creating a good photo. Another one I remember was the worlds made by Illyria, I think, who created Star Reverie Island and Snow Reverie Island,
Mm.
another Japanese creator. Those, massive as they are, and as particle heavy as they are, Gomenasai, Lyrica-san, that it is breathtaking enough that for photos, you can just captivate something with just a simple, like, landscape or such like that.
Mm.
It would be like a castle out in the distance, and it makes you feel you are you're in Hogwarts of sorts,
Mm.
which I find really appealing.
Mm. So, what is it you look for when you take photos and you're out there world hopping and looking for a new one? What is it you look for in 'em?
I I sometimes try to go for what's trending among, like, most other creators. And, like, if I am to check my Twitter timeline, it's like, what worlds am I commonly seeing on repeat? What are people going to?
Mm.
Sometimes I just go with my gut and, like, "This is a cool world, let's check this out and see what we can do."
Mm.
And other times, it's like, I would ask actually my real life sister, like, "Would you want to do a photo together? And if so, do you have a world in mind? Is some
Mm.
place I haven't seen, or is there a place you've been to before that, um, yeah, like, you think could actually work?"
Mm.
Sometimes I do find myself going back to repeated areas, but it's because it's like there's still that familiarity because I've been there already.
Mm.
So it's like, yeah, yeah, but most times when it's something that's trending, I think it does tend to match, like, again, how I follow the Japanese community
Mm.
and how they, like, try to stay up with people.
Mm. Okay. Um, how much of the Japanese community have you interact with here in VRchat?
I've I hardly interacted with any, and,
Mm.
well, Lyrica I have, when I have posted some photos I've taken in her world, Star Reverie Island not Star Reverie, it was Snow Reverie, where it
Mm.
was like 3 romantic photos that me and my sister collaborated. It was for a photo contest that
Mm.
the Void Nexus was doing,
Mm.
where the theme was "Let It Snow." I didn't win, but it was still amazing, and I shared it with Lyrica and said that she found it beautiful and told
Mm.
me that she looks forward to what she has coming up eventually,
Mm.
which made me feel like it was an absolute great pleasure to know someone in another country liked what I did and liked what I
Mm.
was doing.
Mm.
But I think the most notable one was Atto themselves,
Mm.
who showed the price of a Quest Pro, which is like 1,500 yen. In the comparison, I think it was also close to $1,000, which I shared the comparison.
Mm.
And they agreed. We both agreed. That was expensive for who we are. Even for
Mm.
the job I had at the time, I was way out of my pocket.
Oh, yeah, the Apple Vision Pro is a little pricey. I think it's meant for the kind of Apple user that. Whoa. Oh, I broke that. Huh. Eh, it'll buff. If you're enjoying this, please, I would heavily suggest to follow us on any of our social media. If you go down in the thingamabob, down that way, we have a card, metaversedegen.card.co, with all our social media. Feel free to come follow us at any of those places. We've got Discord, we hang out there all the time. Feel free to come chat. Also, we have a Patreon with 2 people who joined up now, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a shout out. One of which is Training Fangs, who's a really good friend of ours, and Forbidden Zero, and also a good friend. So please come follow us, come hang out. Oh, that's my cue to go. Enjoy the video. Swears by Apple, won't leave Apple, and wants their entire house to be made by
Oh
Apple.
God.
It's for those people.
That's why I'm that's why I'm on Android. I don't go for Apple.
Mm. Well, in terms of that, I did see some people within the VR community who has used the Vision Pro, and they think it's great. Although I'm not sure how
Really?
VRchat friendly it is, because Apple's not known
Mm-hmm.
for really playing well with others all too greatly.
Interesting.
Mm. So if you do wish to interact with more of the Japanese community, there's a group we talked with, which is really a nice group of
Mm-hmm.
people, VR Japan tours. They do
VR Japan.
like tours and shows and cultural exchanges with non-Japanese people to get some insights into Japanese culture through
Really?
VRChat. Yeah, if that's something you're interested in,
Wow.
I would heavily
I have to
suggest
check that
attending
out.
one. Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to go check it out. I remember seeing a world called VR Travel, which is
Hmm.
like a lot of Japanese people. They toured the world for
Hmm.
13 days using VR chat as the canvas. And they went to like stimulated versions of like Venice, Italy. They went to like the Golden Gate Bridge of California. They've I don't know where else they've been to,
Hmm.
but it was clear that like the Japanese community, they were equally just as curious and just as interested in the world, just as much as how I am individually, because I can't speak for anyone else, how curious I am for Japanese culture.
Hmm. Well, I say VR chat is a really good window into different realities. Because one, you get to simulate the city, a place, a place of
Yeah.
cultural importance, and you get to speak with the people there as well. How often do us people in our day to day lives have the ability to go speak with people direct who are currently in the country you wish to know about? How
Hmm.
often can people afford to go in their car, fly a plane, and go visit a place? Not quite frequently,
Yeah,
but you can
exactly.
get on your
Hmm.
desktop, your phone, or your VR headset and go see a place that may or may not exist.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I know
Mm,
people tell me like just go on Google Maps and use the Street View. I'm like, I could do that, but being able to like immerse yourself fully
mm,
rather than just look at your desktop. And I think it's a lot more thrilling because you get to be like in the first person perspective of
mm,
where you are.
mm. I think there's a huge difference between seeing a place in photos and seeing it in a similar photo style but in VR. Because at least, as you said,
Yeah.
it's a little more hands-on than a flat screen. You're right there.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Hmm.
do agree with that.
Hmm.
And then again, it's like to get the full experience. And I do get what people say, like just hop on the plane and see it. And they're not wrong. They're not.
Hmm.
It's just like we said, like we cannot just jump on a plane and just fly somewhere.
Hmm. No, not everyone can afford the $1,700 plane ticket somewhere, and then another couple of $1,000 to
Yeah.
stay and eat there. But you can if you have a headset or a desktop, you can hop in VRchat, go to a classic world that we all know, the Japan Shrine. That's almost as old as VRchat. Go talk to some people from all over the
Oh my
globe
god,
and at
yes.
least get a little insight to it.
No, I agree. I do agree with Japan Shrine being as old as VRchat.
Hmm.
That place has been there for years.
Hmm. It was one of the first few worlds I went to, actually. My first world wasn't the Black Cat.
Really?
It was the Japan Shrine. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think my first world was the Sky Cam, actually.
Hmm.
And yeah. I wasn't too sure why, nor do I remember the reason of going. It's just I'm just gonna see what's out there.
Hmm.
Now it's just it.
Hmm. What year did you join VRChat, may I ask?
September of 2019. Again, this was when Cove was really at its worst, where people are dying left and right, and when the streets are quiet and all the world was quiet,
I
and
believe
where, of
COVID
course,
didn't hit till like
yeah,
2020, 2021.
2020.
Yeah, it was like
Okay, so like
2021 till it was a full
2019,
swing.
2020.
2019 was like the year before COVID.
Then I might be wrong then like 2019, 2020, but I know it's like sometime in September
Mm.
during those years.
Mm. Oh. So when you first started VRChat to what it looks like now, what are your thoughts on the direction VRChat's going and how things look?
Hmm. I do. I'd say there are some goods and bads. And then again, like people can take it as they will. I have no control over opinions.
Mm.
I don't control what you think. I don't control what you value.
Mm.
Um, I'd say the restrictions towards certain aspects of VR chat, like NSFW content and stuff. I'd say that's again okay in moderation
Mm.
because, of course, VR chat is slowly becoming more and more of a place built for children.
Mm.
But it's like you cannot police what stuff happens in VR chat. Neither can like children, because like the game itself is supposed to be. I don't know what the rating is, but it's supposed to be like 13 plus.
Mm.
But I've seen children that are like 6, 7, and they're being exposed to adult stuff, and that is not great.
No.
So like while that's good on VR chat's part that like they're policing like content like that, it still takes away from people who want to express themselves
Mm.
through that stuff. And while it's not hunky dory for people, for some people,
Mm.
that it can take away your person. You could take away your identity.
Mm.
That's how they would want to express themselves.
Mm. Mm.
Another thing I did not. No, you go ahead. You go
Oh,
first.
no, on that point, I do, I think, I don't think nudity is too terrible, but responsibly.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a public place, no.
Yes.
If you're with
No.
friends
Yeah.
who don't care, fine. But I don't think like
Hmm.
if your identity is being nude all the time, I think it's very inappropriate to be running around public doing those things, especially when there are kids who
Yeah,
can
I
see and
agree.
do, because with kids specifically, they're little sponges. They'll learn anything and everything that they'll be
Yes,
taught, and
I
there are a lot of
agree. Yes.
things in the adult world, like sexuality, for example. Kids have no purpose learning at a young age. Like they need to learn their ABCs,
Hmm.
how the world works, stuff like that, not necessarily what the rest of us adults are doing. So I think there has to
Yeah,
be
no, I
some
agree.
with the moderation. I've always been the mind that when you ask a company,
Hmm.
a corporation, or another entity to police you, you are willingly giving over power over your life to that person. So the question is
Yeah.
for moderation, and I think the community needs to police itself in this. Do you want VR chat itself to have control over your life, in VR chat, mind you, or
Hmm.
can you as a person be responsible with the decisions you make and where you go. To some degree, there's no
No,
happy one way or the other. It's a huge gray ground, and both need to be responsible with decisions. It's a hard thing to talk about, I
no,
guess.
like like no, it is, but I do agree with you on that.
Mm,
Yeah, the
mm,
like moderation, and I feel like that's like the key. I feel like moderation's been like the core factor of our
mm,
conversation.
mm.
but
I see no problem in that. I
no,
think moderation is
mhm.
probably. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Metaverse Degen. The word of today, or the word sponsoring today, is moderation. Sesame Street reference.
Oh my god. And but no, like I do see the standpoint that yes,
Mm,
like we could do what we can as responsible adults as to like ensure that the community that we do have is a safe place, not just for like those not in our community, but as well as for those who are not like-minded or like who are
mm,
young-minded
mm,
to be in that community.
mm,
I think another one that wait, what?
mm.
No, nothing. That's it. I think
Everything okay?
another yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm just trying to think what else I find different from the years of VRchat from back then. I'd say the credits is something new to me
Mm,
because I'd say there was like a pro and a con toward I'd say there was like more pros than cons, I think.
mm,
Because I know like with with VRchat credits, it's to like help build onto like a creator and what they have going.
mm,
But people they also have like they do have like their own Patreons and links and other stuff like that that can help promote on like a monthly basis, similar to how the credits are. Like I know I said I have a Patreon to Beyond, the creator of the Bus to Nowhere,
mm,
and the recently acclaimed Terrorists of Nowhere, which I
mm,
enjoy immensely. But it's like credits I honestly have no opinion about them because it's not something I would invest in.
mm,
And if other people do, then by all means, again, go right ahead. I can't control what you use your money or what your credits are for.
mm. Hmm. I think VRChat may be trying to remove the middleman, like the money that's going to Patreon, like through them and their
Mhm.
percentages for objects in VRChat. They're kind of losing out on some money there to some degree because it's going through a third party
Makes
to pay
sense.
for a feature that's in VRChat. Why not offer that exact same ability to pay for that tier within VRChat to experience the benefit in VRChat, which eventually goes to VRChat? Because at the end of the day,
Mm,
VRChat being able to pay the bills, so to speak, is what allows people like you and I to do whatever it is we enjoy in here. Like without VRChat, without like,
yeah.
so I see it being there as a possible benefit, but the possible downside to the
Mhm.
credits is how the community uses the credit system, and I don't think that's VRChat's fault.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I honestly agree with that there. And again, it's like it's people's choice whether they want to use like Patreon or if they want to use credits. Because again, we're just individuals
Mm,
who make our own individual choices. We're not in a vacuum in that we don't interplay off of each other. You're free to make your choice and I'm free to make mine. And as a person, I ask is that you just respect my choice,
mm,
whether you agree with it or not.
mm, I very much agree with that. Um, what have been some of your favorite memories from VRChat, may I ask?
Favorite memories. Ooh,
Mm,
okay. And that's a tough one. Clearly, was it? Of course, again, attending the virtual reality show,
mm,
of course. um, completing Project Summer Flare, and just witnessing like the story behind it. And I guess overall, just being with people, being with friends that I love and wish I could meet one day.
Hmm.
Because it's like, I don't know what's the best way to describe it, really. But the memories that I make with my friends, despite some are pretty sloppy, are
Hmm.
sometimes hard, they're still people they are still people I care about. And times that I do share that are good, that are sloppy but controlled sloppy,
Hmm.
I love. And it's because, again, as people, we are meant to be sloppy. We're not meant to be perfect.
Hmm.
And that's what I value about the memories I make with my friends. I cannot pull much on the top of my head because there are far too many.
Oh, it's perfectly fine. I ask the question a lot to a lot of people because at least I personally enjoy hearing what their favorite stories are, like what their memory is. This that one time someone did something funny, and it's also a little bit of insight to how they think. What kinds of things do they value?
Hmm.
Because it's a small little fun way to kind of get that answer instead of what is it you value? What are your morals? Because I think that's a very interrogation-esque thing to do. I don't want to put onto somebody. But you can get
Yeah.
little insights to it, like what's your favorite memory? And it's a
Hmm.
I enjoy hearing the answer every time. It's a lot like a question that Raptor would have asked you by now. What is the weirdest thing you've experienced in VR chat?
The weirdest thing I've experienced.
Hmm.
Ooh.
I'll give you an
Now
example
that is.
if you wish.
Yeah, please do.
So I
Yeah. Go
remember
ahead.
a long time ago, I was hanging out with a bunch of friends, and I was a part of I think it was a drinking night, and it was a group instance, not like an actual group instance. This is way before groups existed, but it was an instance held
Okay.
together by a drinking club, and I had no idea I was in there at the time, and I'm staring at the mirror, and over time I heard commotion going up. I look up, and there are two people ERPing right away at the top of the ceiling,
Oh my
as if
god.
everything's okay.
No.
I had no idea. You could see everyone at the mirror felt awkward because they're just trying not to look up, trying not to look. I don't want to stare. I don't want to stare, but I could hear them from here. Do I look? Do I not look? It was just the whole instance was funny and weird. It was sort of the first time I experienced something like that. It's like, why would people fuck in the open? This is weird.
I think. Okay, now that you brought it up, I guess my funniest that I can remember from the top of my head was,
Mm,
again, like before groups was a thing, before VR chat was like VR chat is now. I was looking around this one world called Club Sanctum, which is like another, like, I guess, a dance club world at the time. I don't know
mm.
how relevant it is now, but I
Still very
remember there
relevant.
were some people. Yeah, there were.
Mm,
Are they?
mm,
There, there happened to be some people mirror dwelling, but like as I said, like there were two people. They were not ERPing, but doing like this lap dance esque performance, and it was like this anime girl,
mm.
and I'm sure it was like a very muscular buff Mario doing the dances. And I just remembered sitting there in my chair, looking through my desktop, just being like, what the heck am I looking at here? Because this is at a time I didn't know VR dances was a thing. But it
Mm,
was entertaining to watch. I
mm.
wasn't too sure what other people thought, but to me, it was funny just seeing this muscular Mario dance on this anime girl with music and all that. But while
Mm,
it was funny, it was like amazing to what the potential was
mm,
of VR chat.
mm. There are a lot of things that people experience the first time that's very normal, like the whole lap dances and more. That happens so frequently, but you can walk in on the weirdest things
Hmm.
all the time unknowingly. I'm just going to go to the drinking night. Oh, look, there's a hidden room. Let's go to the hidden room. Oh, look, there are two cacti having fun wrestling. I'm going to go back to the mirror now.
I think it is a thing. It's like, and I tell people this, that like the moment you feel like you've seen everything in VR chat, there's always that new thing you've never thought you would see. And then it's like, well, I could cross it off my list now.
Mm.
I'm going to go back now say I've seen everything.
I never thought I'd see SpongeBob dragging Patrick around in a collar, but here we are.
Oh my god. That sounds like you've seen that or something.
My friends
Or
are
it's
some
just an
wild,
example.
wild folk. And I love them.
Oh god.
But at the exact same point,
Yeah,
I've walked in on my friends doing some weird or wonky shit just because they were amused. Like, they're not the kind of people who like, oh, I'm a sexual deviant. It's, haha, I'm a SpongeBob, you're a Patrick. Now I'm going to drag Patrick around because funny reference that we've made earlier. Like, as a friend, like, in the conversation of the story, where there's a theory that Patrick and SpongeBob are lovers. So guess what? Haha, SpongeBob and Patrick, and it deviates real quick
Oh
into
my
so
god.
weird into some weird places. And I've walked in on them on some humorous tangent. I'm like, I don't know the context, and I don't know I want to know the context. What am I staring at?
Oh my god. That must have been wild that time.
But I love them.
Same. My friends, they are wild at times, but I also love them. And I think there's just like that line between like being wild and but controlled wild, and then wild but uncontrolled. I'm somewhere in the middle where I try to go with the flow, and I just love whatever spontaneity happens.
But isn't that spontaneity also what makes VR chat? Spontaneity, hop in a world, see whatever cool, awesome, amazing things you'll see, or stuff you may regret seeing. Eye bleach included.
Yes, and I think we've had seen both kinds where we've expected it or we have not.
Well, where did you meet your friends, may I ask? The ones you're talking about.
Mostly, again, like VR chat. Again, like this was like in that one fandom base that crumbled away from drama. I'm friends with a few of them. I'm more like long distance friends with some, and there are just others where I don't talk to anymore because I don't want to be associated or be reminded of those times. But the friends that do stay, um, I love them immensely, and I'm just happy that they're just a part of my life, even though so much heartache and so much depression I went through. I still love them, and yeah, I love them dearly.
I'm glad you found a group of people you can call friends and family in VR chat.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's
I do agree.
one of the many great things that VR chat offers is the ability to meet people you wouldn't necessarily see in your day-to-day life. Today, they're a SpongeBob dragging a Patrick around. Tomorrow, they're your best friend who you know dearly.
Oh my god.
I can't think of a more VR chat way to meet somebody. There's that it's in of itself.
Like, how did you meet? I tell my parents, and like I've met these friends through this virtual space, and they're like, they're not your friends until you see their face. That's what Discord is for. That's what video calls are for. But it's like I am with people, and I have worked with people who do not comprehend the virtual reality space, and that's because they are locked in this mindset of like standards and rules, and that like where online is dangerous, and that you don't know the people that you're talking to. I told my mom that I was gonna have this interview,
No.
and she asked me, I was like, "Where are you gonna have this?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna have it at home." And she's like, "No, where are you having it?" And I'm like, "At home in VR in virtual reality." And she gave me this face that was just like, "What the fuck?" And and so, of course, like, I know she was not gonna understand it
Mm,
because she grew up in a time where technology like this was never around to exist, or if it did, it was still in infancy.
mm. I think sometimes it is VR social platforms is one of the hardest things to describe people. I very much agree. How can you tell somebody you're of that funny moment where you're drinking with friends in a place you can't really describe to them with a SpongeBob and Patrick running
Yeah,
around, everyone's laughing
you're pulling
hysterically.
on the collar.
Yeah, like it's things like that are really hard to describe, or you went raving with a bunch of people in your own home. It's like it kind of sounds like you're holding a house party, but
Yeah,
there's no one in your house. Like
it's not.
like,
Yeah,
sometimes, when I'm talking with my own friends and family about, like, VR chat, you know that meme? And I say it a lot on here, but sometimes I feel like the guy,
okay.
frizzled-ass hair, map covered in red lines and
Uh-huh.
string, and he's pointing
Oh,
at 2 or
that's
3.
one?
Yeah, I feel like that guy
Pointing
a
at
lot of the time.
everything.
It's like, "Yeah, it started here with this group, and then these guys over here," and I just feel like an insane man.
That is the best way to describe how VR chat is. I actually I ask this is like at the by the time that like you asked me for this interview as well, I was looking for a job because I lost my current one
Mm,
a few days before Christmas last year.
mm.
And the people at my work, I would tell them like I would show them my photography that I save on my phone, and they would ask me, "Where did you get this?" And I would first follow up with another question, which is like, if I am to tell you what VR chat is, what do you think it is? And most times they say VR chat is a game. And um, and to that, and like it makes sense. It's something you can play, but VR chat is more than that. It is literally its own social media in and of itself, where there's something for everyone. You can meet friends, you can play games like Among Us and Blackout and Audience Anarchy. You can explore worlds, go on dates, or like you said, find someone as SpongeBob and Patrick pulling themselves on the collar. There is literally there is something for everyone, or you can be whoever you want, be wherever you want, whenever you want.
Mm.
And as much as the people at my work, they're like so interested in their Facebook and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. VR chat can also provide that as well with the right stuff,
Mm.
which I think is awesome
Mm.
and adds more to the social media world.
Mm. VRChat also is a really great place to call a sandbox. If you can think it and you can build it, it can exist.
Yeah,
You just need
exactly.
Unity, Blender, and a little bit of time and knowledge, and whatever you wish can exist.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Like I've seen like impressive, like yeah, Show Pals Worlds is a great example of
Hmm.
utilizing the sandbox concept. Where especially like their recent Lucid Dreams journal worlds.
Hmm.
It's it is like an open concept for them, and it allows us to peer into like who they are as a person through the means of like creating and all
Hmm.
that stuff.
Hmm. I very much agree. So, what have been some of the responses from people you try to describe VRChat to?
Mm, most times it's been like older people who are like in their 50s, 60s, some even in their 70s.
Hmm.
Most just say that it is a game.
Hmm.
But that's the only response I get. And other times, especially in my family, where it's like it's still an online space that you don't know what's going to happen, and you need to be careful.
Hmm.
I don't blame them for their mindset because at the time, like when they perhaps had internet, it was just an open space where people can like do whatever, just as much as how we can do whatever here.
Hmm. Well, having that mindset to be cautious and wary of things isn't always a bad thing. but it becomes a bad thing when it prevents
No.
you from experiencing life and other things. If you're too afraid to go outside your own house, then it can be a problem sometimes. Also,
Yeah, it's a
but
problem.
VR chat also, there are some horror stories from within VR chat, and it
Yeah.
is you can't just jump in here willy-nilly, which is why I'm surprised there are kids here. I think parents, especially the parents of kids under 13, should not just be wary of allowing them in VR chat, but the internet in general. Anything that can happen here in VR chat
Yes.
is has been running a lot longer in places like YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, Twitter, same places.
Mhm.
So uh, I think maybe I'm just too much of the whole children don't belong on the internet because I'm just old, but the exact same point. It's kind of on the parents
Yeah.
here. Sorry, I'm calling you
Mhm.
parents out, but
Yeah, like,
if your kids in
no, it's fine. I don't think they will ever watch this. I am not sharing this with the family group chat they have on Messenger. I'm never sharing this. Only
oh,
with friends. I don't know.
mm,
But if my parents do want to understand the person that I am online. Because it's like, best way to describe me to my family, I'm like a absolute social outcast. I don't talk much with a family that only knows Tagalog, the one of the most used dialects of the Philippines.
mm,
And again, who do not understand the technology of VR chat or like VR in general.
mm,
But like, if it gives them this open mindset that like I'm not the only one who kind of is like this, or is like I guess brought into this because of circumstances that we could not control a few years ago,
mm,
then yeah.
mm. Well, a lot of people are brought in during COVID because what else are you supposed to do? You can just sit inside your home with your other family driving each other nuts all day, or you could rave with SpongeBob's and
Yeah.
Patrick's in VR. Like, it's even though as I mentioned, there's some horror stories. VR chat, VR chat's personality in general has been nothing but friendly, helpful, and wholesome, and I mean that genuinely. Like even us running Metaverse Degen, I'll use that as an example. There's been so many people who's been so
Mhm.
friendly, so willing to help. They're so willing to listen, give you guidance on things, and they ask for nothing, just friendship.
I agree,
And
yes.
it's
Uh,
so VR chat can be like any other platform. It depends on what you look for. You can
mhm.
find the terror, or you can find amazing people, amazing friends, and experiences you can't explain. VR chat, I think, is it's hard.
It's an open invitation. It's an open invitation, and
mm.
all you have to do is just say yes, and you'll be invited to the good in there.
mm.
I think that's the best way to describe it as well.
Indeed. And nothing bad ever happens when you're asked yes or no without context. Just say yes.
Yes. Just say yes.
Because no good story starts with hold my salad.
Hold my salad. You gonna like hold my
Hold
beer
my
or
beer?
like hold
Yeah,
my salad.
yeah. That's
Nah,
just
take my
the best
salad.
way to describe VR chat is hold my beer, but with good people.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh my god.
oh man. I love this place. Yeah.
Same. As do I. Yes.
Hmm. Well, thank you very much, Jazz, for speaking with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you over the last hour. So thank you.
Oh, no worries. You're welcome. I'm
Hmm.
glad to be here.
Hmm. Where can people find you in your photography if they wish to reach out?
So you can mostly just find me on Twitter at Jazz Miracle VR, or you could find, or I can always like I don't know where else. Well, I am making a Tumblr. It's still in the process. So like when that is posted, I'll share that eventually
Hmm.
on my VRchat bio. If people read bios these days.
Hmm. People still do.
But yeah, mostly it's mostly Twitter that you can find me.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. And since we don't have Raptor, I can't say you know the thing, so I'll give you some homework instead. Try something new,
Okay.
meet someone different, try a new experience, and tell us about it. Go learn something. Enjoy the rest of your night, folks.